Hi there, everybody. Thanks for being here. My name is Danelle. I am the owner of Bikram Yoga, Fremont Street, and I am just really glad you're here. For those that are here with us today, I wanted to let you know that I'm going to be recording this webinar and using it later in some advertising materials, but I want you to know that only my face is going to be shown in the recording. So don't worry about having to turn your camera off. Also, for those that are watching this later, the recorded version, um, thank you for being here. We are doing this live, so bear with us if there's any technical difficulties. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with everybody. Okay, let's move that. Sometimes, okay, there we go. Let me move that and okay. All right, that looks good. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. Today, we're going to be talking about what Bikram yoga is. So, again, my name is Danelle, and sorry, I'm going to move this. This gets a little bit distracting for me. So, I'm going to put it right in the middle. Sometimes I look to the right too much. Okay, so my name is Danelle. I am the fourth owner of Bikram Yoga Fremont Street, and the other picture there is Bruno. Bruno has joined me in ownership as of June 1st, 2026. So, welcome to Bruno. Bruno's not with us today, but he is one of our owners. A little bit about me. I started Bikram Yoga about 25 years ago, right here at Bikram Yoga Fremont Street. I became a teacher in 2006 and I became the owner in 2016. And there have been four owners. So I'm one of the fourth owners, and then Bruno coming on board as well, joining me. The studio is one of the very first 15 studios that were ever open back in the late 90s. So it's really special to me. I've grown up there doing my yoga there in that same room, yoga every single day for the last 26 years, and I'm really proud of it. And I'm excited to share Bikram Yoga with you all if you've always been curious about what it is. It's changed a lot over the years, and so my goal is to really help people understand and distill some of the information that's out there, and really more than anything, just let you know who we are and what we do. We're very passionate about it. So, what is Bikram Yoga? Bikram Yoga is a series of 26 beginner level postures. And we do two breathing exercises in the beginning of class and at the end of class. Now, all of these postures are beginner level. So we are not doing anything that's considered an advanced posture. We're not doing headstands. And all of these postures, they have an advanced version to them, but we're strictly doing the beginning level of the posture. And why that is important is because it's very doable for all of us. It doesn't matter if you're experienced or if you're brand new. It's beginner level. They're still challenging, but they're very, very doable. Now, when Bikram Yoga got started, it got started from Bikram Yoga, obvious, or Bikram and his guru, Vishnu Ghosh. He was a doctor and he would see people daily. And they would come to him and they would say, I have an injury or I have an illness. And he would basically write a prescription. Okay, we're going to have you do this posture and this posture and this posture. Now, he was taking those postures from a whole series of 84 postures. And then he would give that prescription to Bikram. And then it was up to Bikram to take the person and show them how to do the posture. Because getting the posture correct in the right alignment is so important to get the benefits. So that was why they had the one-on-one time, and he could really understand their body and show them how to do the posture. And so over time, he realized that several of the postures were continually being prescribed, and he was seeing maybe 10 or 15 people a day. And he thought, what if we created a whole series of all these beginner level postures from the Big 84 series of postures and put it into a series that everybody can create health from and help prevent some of these things before they happen. And then we could do it in a classroom setting where we could get more people to come at once instead of 10 or 15 a day. So this is the long history way back of the thinking of Bikram, of how it actually got started. And not everybody knows that story. So that is how we got the 26 postures. They're very, very intentionally taken from the larger 84 series, but with the idea that everybody can do them and gain the benefits. Now, another interesting thing about our series is we add the heat. So we add 105-degree heat with 40% humidity. Now, the heat is going to make the postures feel better. As if your muscles are cold and you're doing deep stretches, it's going to feel more painful than if your muscles were already warm. That's just how it is. And then on top of it, with the heat, you're creating a sweat. And when you do the postures, which I'm going to talk about later, you're flushing out toxins. And so then you are able to sweat out those toxins. So the heat is very important. We do everything twice. So we start with one posture, we do it once, and then that sort of warms up the body and says, okay, we're doing this. This is how you feel today. It's sort of a diagnostic, the first set. And then the second set is when you really can go a little bit deeper because you've already sort of warmed up in the first set. And then we do another posture, same thing. First set warms up, second set, really you can go a little deeper, and so on through all the 26 postures. Now, I've done a class in the past on all the different systems of the body. And in anatomy books, I don't know if any of you have had anatomy, there's 12 systems in the body. I also count the energetic system because when you're in yoga, you're also working on the energetic system. So I like to point it out. Now, this class that I taught was a 2-hour class. I'm going to try to distill all of this information very quickly for you, but highlight the really, really important things that I want you to take home with you today. So, all of the systems of the body are going to benefit from Bikram yoga. Now, first you have the muscular system and the skeletal system. Why? Because it's a physical practice and it's going to take muscle strength in order to hold the postures, right? So you're building muscle. That's going to enhance your muscular system. Your skeletal system, it's going to help with your bones. It's going to help with osteoporosis. So did you know that bones have the ability to reshape themselves? They do. They are constantly releasing bone cells and laying down new bone cells or bone growth. And again, in my class, when I teach it more, I get more scientific. So bear with me. I'm just trying to keep it as simple as possible. But because these bones are always reshaping, how do they reshape? One of the ways is when the muscles that attach to the bones do a little tug on the bone, that stimulates the process of laying down new bone, which is going to strengthen the bone. And every posture that we do is pulling the muscle, lengthening. So you're constantly pulling that bone, laying down new bone, strengthening the bones. So it's really good for osteoarthritis to help hopefully keep it at bay. And hopefully, if you're experiencing it, hopefully you experience less symptoms from it. The integumentary system, what is that? That is the hair, the skin, the nails, and for our purposes, the sweat glands. So our sweat glands actually have a purpose. A lot of people come in and they say, "Oh, no, 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 I don't sweat." And in some ways they're happy about that. And the thing about that is the sweat glands actually have a purpose, and that is to help eliminate toxins from the body. So you do want your sweat glands to work. Another thing that they do is they help to regulate the homeostasis in your body. So for our purposes, the sweat on the skin is really important because it is going to help you to keep your core temperature at a very normal level. So it's going to prevent us from overheating. So that's why it's important that you sweat. You want the sweat to sit on your skin because that evaporation keeps you cool. I have seen people come in that don't sweat, but over time, they activate those sweat glands, and before you know it, they start sweating. And this is a good thing. So, this is enhancing your integumentary system, making your skin smoother and helping to rid the body of toxins more efficiently. Now, the nervous system, the endocrine system, I mean, we could study these for years, years. But what I'll say is they work together because the endocrine system relies on the messages that get sent to the brain to do most of its job. And the nervous system is how we get messages to the brain to tell the body what to do, move a muscle, release a hormone, or whatever it is. Now, the spine houses our spinal cord and all of our nerves. Now, if our spine, it protects the nervous system. So it's really important that our spine is strong and that we have a very, very, very stable protection for our nervous system, for the spinal cord and for the nerves. And when we do this yoga, we do 9 backward bending postures. And the reason we do those is to strengthen the spine. So again, I can't get all the way into it, even though I want to, but there's so much to it. I want to leave you with the nervous system is one of the most important systems that we improve. And we do it through a lot of our backward bending postures. And it keeps our systems working and receiving the messages. And Vishnu Ghosh, Bikram's guru, he often, you'll see him quoted saying, healthy spine, healthy life, because every system is affected by the nervous system. And he's also said the nervous system is the source of all human energy in human life. So it took me a long time to understand that. And again, that's another topic for another day. The cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, and the circulatory system, they all work together. So the cardiovascular system, the heart, the veins, the arteries, they have the circulatory system, right? That's the circulatory system. The respiratory system, the lungs, is bringing in oxygen. That oxygen attaches to the red blood cells, which then the heart pumps through the circulatory system. So we want all 3 of those to be very strong. We want the heart to work so that it can get the oxygen that we breathe in through the body because that is nourishment and that is energy for the body. Fresh oxygen is how we nourish our body. Now, one thing about the respiratory system I want you to know is why is it so important that our lungs are healthy? Well, obviously because we breathe, right? But did you know that when you get older and you take a normal inhale and exhale, the amount of air that stays in your lungs gets bigger and bigger and bigger the older you get. So let me break that down a little bit better. So when you're young, And you take an inhale and an exhale, just a normal one. Let's say you have 15% air that stays in your lungs that doesn't get exchanged. Well, as you get older, you take a normal inhale and exhale. That becomes 30% and then 40% and then 50%. So as we get older, we use less and less and less of our lungs. When you come into the Bikram yoga class, we start with the breathing exercise that I talked about. When you do that exercise, there is an emphasis on exhaling all of the air out and then inhaling again, exhaling all the air out, inhaling again. So this is bringing in oxygen and it is allowing you to use your full lung capacity. And this is going to increase your lung health. So it's going to help. There's a lot of information here, so I hope you're bearing with me. The lymphatic system is another system in our body. Unlike the cardiovascular system, where the heart pumps the blood, the lymphatic system does not have a pump to pump the lymph that goes through the vessels. Now, that lymph is very important because it keeps us healthy. It is part of our immune system. So it helps us to get rid of viruses and bacteria. How does it get pumped through our body? Through exercise, through muscle contraction. So practicing yoga will help improve your immune system. Your digestive system, obviously very important for receiving the nutrients from our food and eliminating what we don't need. The urinary system, this one is a very important system for us because through the urinary system, we have our kidneys and our bladder, and it's through our kidneys that helps us to utilize electrolytes. And we need electrolytes because they help us with muscle contraction. They help us with all sorts of things. So they're very important to have in our body. And when we sweat the way that we do in class, we get rid of a lot of those electrolytes. So we want to always be mindful and replace our electrolytes if you have a practice. Hopefully, when you have a practice. So, the urinary system is strengthened. The reproductive system is strengthened for women that have had difficulties with their monthly cycles being regular. I have had people come in and their cycles have been able to come online a lot better. Um, all of these systems affect our health one way or another, right? And even the energetic system. The energetic system consists of our chakras and prana and this life force that flows through us. And if we were to describe to somebody what it looks like for somebody to be healthy, what what would you say is health? I know for me, the way I would describe it is when all of the systems of my body are working the way that they're intended to work. So, in other words, my heart is functioning the way it's supposed to. My lungs are functioning the way they're supposed to. My nervous system and endocrine system, everybody's communicating with everybody the way it's supposed to. So, would we then say if someone was not healthy, it would be the opposite, right? And so I asked myself, why is that? And what is happening if somebody's system isn't working? So, for instance, let's talk about diabetes type 2. So I'm not talking about hereditary or genetic diseases. This is things that develop later. So think of type 2 diabetes. That is due to an organ, right? Um, let's think about COPD. That is due to an organ. So diabetes, the pancreas. COPD, it's the lungs. And if these organs, which are part of one system or another, are not functioning, generally It's because of why? What would you say is the main reason that organs are not functioning or systems of the body are not functioning? What would you say is a reason for that? Yes, yes. Stress is one of the big things. Stress releases toxins in the body, so and it messes with the organs. We get environmental toxins, we get toxins from our food, and we even release toxins from our thoughts. So if we're thinking negative thoughts, that's going to create a stress response in our body. We're going to release cortisol, and all of these toxins build up. And sometimes it's the heart, sometimes it's the pancreas, sometimes it's the digestive system. Somewhere in our body, we become susceptible to disease when the organs are not functioning. So, in our yoga class, we are addressing this very thing. We are addressing the health of all of our organs. So it's more than an exercise, right? This yoga is really about internal health. How? So earlier, if you look on the page before this, the tourniquet effect, which is similar to hydrotherapy. Well, what is the tourniquet effect? So I'm going to break this down. Now, this is very, very complex. Again, I'm going to try to distill it all for you. So every posture that we do in class, and if you look at these, like here, we're creating this compression here, right? And this one down here, we're creating a compression here in the spleen and pancreas, also in the throat. This one, it's in the kidneys. This one is in the reproductive organs. And when we go through every single posture, we create a compression in the body on some organ, one organ or another. It could be a joint, it could be an organ. But by the time we go through the whole class, we've created a compression in the entire body, inside and out. Every organ, every gland gets this compression. Now, that process that happens in the body when we create the compression from the postures is what is called a tourniquet effect. What is happening is you compress an organ, and when you compress it, it squeezes that organ out. So it's kind of like a sponge squeezing it out. So imagine if I were to bend to the side, my liver and gallbladder are squeezing out. What's happening on the other side of my body? The veins and arteries are getting thinner. When those veins and arteries get thin, the blood cannot travel like it normally does. And the heart, in its amazing intelligence, says, why isn't the blood moving? I got to pump faster and I got to pump harder to get the blood going. So the heart starts to pump faster. This gets our heart elevated, right? Now you've created this compression down here in the liver and gallbladder, and the blood cannot get in back in to the liver and gallbladder. So the heart is going, I need to get the blood through so I can get it back into the liver. But what's happening is right outside the organ, there's a dam that's building up from the blood that was close to it. It's building up and building up and building up and building up like a dam. And then we hold the posture so that that dam can get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then when the timing is right, we come out of the posture and then that dam releases. But what's great about it is because the heart is working faster and that blood was building up, there's a force behind the blood that when it rushes in after you've been holding the posture, there's a flushing that happens. So it rushes back in and it brings in fresh blood. And then we do a second set. Squeeze it again, squeeze it out again. The dam is building up. We come out, flush it back again with fresh oxygen. Now, this is how we detox the organs. And think about it. If this is done every single time you come practice, week after week, month after month, year after year. This is helping to create vibrant, healthy organs, flushing out all the toxins. Now, another quote from Vishnu Ghosh here. Yoga keeps the body full of vitality, immune to diseases, even at old age. And the way it is done is through the tourniquet effect. So there is a pushing out of blood when you're in the posture. When you come out, there's flushing it back in again and again and again, flushing out, cleaning out, bringing in nutrients over and over. And this is why we call it a fountain of youth because it keeps us young, it keeps us healthy, and it keeps us full of vitality. So this is powerful, powerful yoga. I hope that all made sense. Now, what is the difference between Bikram yoga and hot yoga? So I come from learning this in the late 90s, early 2000s, and back then there was only Bikram yoga. There was no hot yoga. It was Bikram yoga. And then it became so popular that people were starting to add heat to their styles of yoga. Because let's face it, it was amazing, right? But from that, we coined the term, this umbrella term of hot yoga. And so now hot yoga can be all kinds of things. And if you come into my studio, the reason I like to clear it up is because some people have done vinyasa in a hot room and then they come in and they think they're coming in to do that same thing when actually our Bikram yoga system is completely different from hot yoga or vinyasa flow that's in a heated room. So I like to just point out the differences. There are four main differences. Now, the first thing about Bikram yoga is always the same 26 postures, two breathing exercises. Now, some hot yoga classes will do something similar to that same sequence, but change up something. Maybe they change up the posture's order a little bit. Maybe they change up there's a lot of different variations of every posture. Maybe they use a different variation. Maybe it's vinyasa versus more holding a posture in stillness. So it can be all kinds of things when it's hot yoga. Bikram yoga, always the same. Now, another difference is the room temperature is always 105 degrees, 40% humidity. Now, we have found this to be ideal. It's not overtaxing. It's not, believe it or not, some people want it hotter, but honestly, it's effective at 105. This is what brings up the most toxin that's going to help you sweat them out efficiently because you're compressing those toxins into your system. Now you want to sweat them out. So at 105, it creates sufficient amount of sweat to get those toxins out. So that's what we found to be the ideal ratio, 105 degrees Fahrenheit, 40% humidity. Now, hot yoga, I've seen all different things. I've seen warm, I've seen 95 to 105, I've seen hotter even, and it just depends on the studio and what their goal is. One other thing about Bikram yoga is we do have a very standardized teacher training. And so I can take someone that has done the same training I have, and believe me, I've had people from all over the world come to my studio and want to teach. I can put them on the podium and I know exactly how they're going to teach. We're all taught exactly the same. So if someone went to Bikram yoga training, I know exactly what type of class they're going to teach. Now, high yoga, there's all kinds of different variations of trainings. There's lots of different alternative trainings, and they are teaching different styles again based on the variety of sequence that they choose for their studio. So you could have a different, if a teacher came to me and said, I'm a hot yoga teacher, I really wouldn't know if they were going to teach the same sequence that I am offering at my studio. So it takes more conversation and more understanding. And so that's just something to notice about that stands out as a difference between the two. And the last thing is that Bikram yoga is always 90 minutes, where hot yoga, I've seen 60 minutes, I've seen 45 minutes, 75 minutes. So the length of the class makes a difference. So basically, if you are doing a original Bikram yoga class, it's always going to be the same 26 postures, the room 105, 40 degrees. The teacher is going to have the same training and background, and the class is going to be 90 minutes. So I hope that cleared some stuff up there for you. And all yoga is good, Just the main thing is I like to educate people because the more that they come in prepared with what they are coming to, what kind of class they're going to go into, the better their experience is going to be. And I've just had too many students come in hoping for one thing, and they come into my class and it's not what they were hoping for. Now, the opposite happens. They're pleasantly surprised. But if they were looking for something else, then, I want everyone's experience to be good and know what they are signing up for. Now, why our studio and why our community? So, again, one of the original 14 studios opened in the late 90s. So, there is some history there. And with the history comes an amazing community. And we have one of our students who I like to call her my welcoming committee because she greets everybody and gets to know everybody. The students, I'm so grateful for them. They always have smiles on their faces. They have supported me on my bad days. I support them on their bad days. But there's just everyone is rooting for everybody and looking after each other. And everybody says hi and smiles. And it's just a very positive, uplifting, supportive place to practice. Another thing that makes our community amazing is our instructors. All of them have unique personalities that they bring to the class. Now, like I said, class is always the same, but our instructors all have different personalities and they're all unique and they bring their originality to the class. Even though it's the same class, you get a different instructor, which their personality shines through. So, and they walk their talk. So all of them practice as well. They know the importance of what it's like to have a consistent practice because it's changed their lives too. So they're amazing. And then our schedule is very consistent. We have pretty consistent every day across the board, 4:30 class, 9 o'clock all through the week. You can get morning, you can get evening classes, and if you miss a day, you can come the next day because that's why we have the consistency. Very important. Offerings. So we do offer at times sound meditations. We offer different types of workshops. I often will work with massage therapists to offer that or whatever comes around. And if somebody wants to bring something to me and say, I have this offering for the studio, I'm always open to that. Just the more that brings community, the better as well, and just support other people. We do posture clinics. We do, yeah. So we have sometimes we'll do potlucks and sometimes we do challenges where you practice every single day for 30 days or every single day for 60 days. I've done a few 60-day challenges and I know it sounds like a lot, but people love it. And 3 times I've done it and I've given away a paid trip to Kauai. So that was kind of motivation. But in the end, lots of positive feedback about it. So Yeah, so we'll do a few of those a year, either 30-day or 60-day challenge, or sometimes like a 4-4-4 challenge where you do 4 classes a week for 4 weeks, something like that. So we're always here to help motivate you. Here's what some of our students are saying. This is Melody. It's never too late to start. So she says that she got started when her friend from Canada was staying with her, and she would wake up every morning with a backache and say, and her friend would say to her, "You should go to yoga." So one morning, she gave me a mat and said, "We're going to yoga." I was 58 years old at the time, and now I'm 82. It started as a physical practice, and now it is just a part of my life. So this is Melody. And actually, Melody is turning 83 now. This was a year ago when she wrote this. So she's turning 83 next month. So yeah, and I do have a video testimony of her on the front page of my website as well. If you ever feel like checking that out, she is an inspiration. Here's a couple that practice with us. Philip says, I have practiced Bikram yoga diligently for the past 12 years. It has renewed me multiple times and healed my body and mind in countless ways: shoulders, elbows, hips, knees, and feet. I love the classes because all I have to do is listen and follow the instructions. The feeling afterwards is always wonderful. And his wife, Yang Ming, says Bikram yoga is a healthy, positive addiction. Once you start, you'll want to take classes again and again and again. Yes, it's so true. So, what are your goals? Thinking about coming to Bikram yoga, what are your goals? Now, they could be to get flexible or to get strong. They can be to help reduce symptoms of an illness. Maybe you have hyperthyroidism or type 2 diabetes or blood pressure, arthritis. Now, what I will say for those, please always check with your doctor. And you might want to monitor your medicine while you're starting a practice. Get a baseline. After 3 to 6 months, I would go check your levels again and see. I have had students that have had to adjust their medications and actually reduce some of their medications. So it's a possibility, but I always suggest to work with your doctor on that. They are there to help you. I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell you what to do, but I have seen where people have been able to reduce and even sometimes come off their medicine. If you have an injury, yes, if you have an injury, this yoga is very doable. Now, it's not going to be the same if you don't have an injury. You're going to practice a little differently. And this is where I offer 15-minute consultation to any student that's working through injuries, and I help you find the way to approach your practice. So it's very doable. Basically, you want to do less, right? You want to do less. But if you have an injury, something specific, and I know about it, I can sit with you and show you exactly where to make the adjustment and where to stop with your body. And I can explain why. So then that will help keep you motivated and help you heal faster. It improves mental well-being. If that's your goal, then yes, improve. That's actually why I started this yoga. I didn't have injuries, but I definitely was working through some mental and emotional trauma. And it was very difficult in the beginning when you're working through mental um, things going on in your life. There's an aspect to it that's challenging, right? And the heat and the postures, they can be difficult, even though they're beginner level. But there is a challenging aspect to it, and especially with the heat. So you will strengthen your mind. You're going to get stronger mentally and emotionally. It might take time. For me, it took 10 years, but without it, I would definitely not be where I'm at today if it wasn't for this yoga. So I worked through all of it in the yoga room, and even though it was challenging and hard sometimes, I got through it. I knew this was what I needed. So if your goal is to help improve your mental well-being, this is really a wonderful place to start. If you're looking just to find a community, for sure, this is a great place. You're going to find a community. And no matter what your goal is, I tell people this, you may come to the yoga for one reason, but you might stay for another reason. And that was for me. I came for my mental well-being, and now I've stayed because I know that it improves the quality of my life as I get older. And now I'm in my 50s. I started in my 20s. Now I'm in my 50s. And I think about how I feel. I still feel like I'm in my 20s. I've been able to keep my body full of vitality, and I want to maintain that well into my 80s and 90s. Like Melody, she's an inspiration to me as well. She started in her 50s and she's maintaining it. So think about it. It's never too late to start this yoga and improve the quality of your life because really that's what it's about. It's about having less pain. It's about having a better view on life. And it's just about improving the quality of your life so then your relationships improve and you can enjoy your life, right? So it's beautiful. Now, what are some frequently asked questions? You, I did get some in the chat, but these are some that I am going to address because these are very, very, very common ones that come up. So a lot of times people come to me and they say, "Oh, you know, I'm not very flexible. Am I going to be able to do this yoga?" And absolutely, this yoga is for people that are not flexible. And you gain flexibility. So definitely, definitely, if you're not flexible, you can still do this. And again, like I said earlier, you just do a little bit and that is enough. You just do what you can. And then that is going to be more and more and more. I don't like the heat. I don't think I can do it. Oh, I totally understand this one. I do. I do. Um, Usually, when people say this, it is because they are comparing this to a sauna or a jacuzzi or being in the middle of Arizona in the middle of summer, right? I can't do those things either for very long. Now, why is it different? Well, a sauna, first of all, a sauna is double the temperature that we are practicing, right? Is double. The other thing about it is it's an enclosed environment. So there's nowhere for the evaporation to happen. Like I was talking about the evaporation on your skin is how it cools your core temperature down. If you're in an enclosed environment, there's no way for that evaporation from the sweat to happen. So what happens, your core temperature goes up. And that is why you cannot stay in the sauna for very long. It's too dangerous. Your core temperature has gone too high. 20 minutes and it's time to leave. It is the same thing with a jacuzzi. You're submerged in water. So again, there's nowhere for the evaporation to happen. There's no way to create homeostasis. And what happens? Your core temperature goes up. In the yoga room, the sweat on the body, like I was saying, the evaporation of it is what cools your body down. And this is all in the medical books. I'm not making this up. This is what I learned when I studied anatomy. And then these are the things I think about in my 20 years of doing yoga is how all of my knowledge applies to my yoga, and then I'm sharing it. Um, and then what about that day when you're in Arizona and it's 115 degrees out? No, that is awful, right? You're in your full clothes, you got to go to work. You can't be sweating, and you can't have dripping sweat on your body and sitting on your arms and your clothes drenched, right? So again, the core temperature goes up because we're not allowing that sweat to sit on our skin and to evaporate and cool the body down. And so in our yoga room also we have airflow that goes intentionally goes through the room so that when that sweat is on your skin and then the air, it helps it to evaporate and it helps you to keep your core temperature down. So I encourage you that if heat is the thing that is keeping you from being in the yoga room, to give it a try and give it a good month. Maybe don't decide right away because the body does have to acclimate. It does. At first, it is going to be a little overwhelmed. And so, my suggestion is give it time, drink electrolytes, pace yourself slowly in the beginning, wear less clothes so that the skin can breathe. And over time, you're going to be asking me to turn the heat up. I guarantee it. Okay, so what if I have an injury? I've touched on this a little bit. Absolutely. If you have an injury, I recommend that we talk one-on-one, whether at the studio, on the phone, or on Zoom, so that I can understand the injury. I can help support you the best way, and I can give you tips on how to approach your practice very safely and and in fact help heal your injury faster than if you weren't practicing. Now, my experience, I've had a lot of injuries and I've always gone in the yoga room and I've healed them. One of the biggest injuries I had was I was walking down the street on Fremont Street with my acai bowl in hand, couldn't wait to eat it, rushing back to the studio, and I tripped on the sidewalk and I flew and hit the sidewalk hard. And I landed on my knee and I tore my cartilage in my knee. Super swollen. Yeah, it was not good. And I went home and of course, a little bit freaking out. But I said, okay, what do I tell my students? Okay, I'm going to take 2 days off because when it's in the acute stage, you want to rest the first couple days. So I stayed home, I elevated my leg, and I just let it rest. It was very painful to walk on it, to bend it, to straighten it. I couldn't do anything. And then everyone was like, you gotta go to the doctor, you gotta go to the doctor. And I was like, I'm gonna wait just a minute. And because I have a tremendous amount of faith in this yoga, so I said, I am gonna try my yoga first. Then I'll go to the doctor if it doesn't get better. And so on the third day, I went into the yoga room and I could not do 90% of the yoga. But it was a class where I was curious and I explored what can I do, what can't I do? Because I really didn't know until I started doing the postures. And that gave me a lot of feedback about my injury. And then the next day I went in and I just did the very minimal, all in the correct alignment, but just only about 5% of the posture. I would only go to my point, stop, and stay there. Now, it was painful, but I knew it was like not making it worse pain, it was healing pain. So I sat with it. I moved slow, did a little bit more. Went the next day, did a little bit more. Went the next day, did a little bit more. Pain was getting less. I said at this point, I think I'm going to heal this in my yoga. And after about 6 weeks with the same approach, I practiced 6 days a week with the same approach, and I got more and more and more deep into the postures. By the fifth week, I was doing everything, but there was still some residual pain. And then by the eighth week, I was doing everything. There was no pain. And it was like it never happened. So, except for the tear in my jeans. But this is an example of how I would guide you if you had an injury. Of course, yours is going to be tailored for you, but this is an example of what I would have you do. And with my guidance and the teacher's guidance, I believe that it can help. How many times a week can I practice? That's up to you. I have people that practice every day. I have Dan. I shouldn't say his name. But yes, he practices every single day. I think for like 4 years now. And he's older than 70. Let me put it that way. Older than 70. Practices every day. Um, I think if you're working on something like an injury, I would definitely go more than not go. There are times life happens and you get in once a week. That's okay too. Whatever you can do, but there is no limit as long as you take care of yourself, you eat good food, you're replacing your electrolytes. If you're feeling like overwhelmed by the yoga, maybe take a day off. It's okay, or come talk to us. We can give you some advice. But yes, the more the better, actually. That's quality of life. It's you're putting uh, you're putting into the bank this that you might take out later in life when you can't get to yoga, right? So it's like investing, and eventually you'll pull out, but most of the time you're investing. Every single time you practice, you're putting that investment into your health for the future. I believe that. So, what if I feel dizzy or nauseous? This is very normal. We all feel this at some point. The main reason that people feel dizzy and nauseous, believe it or not, has to do more with electrolytes and your hydration levels than the heat. We always want to blame it on the heat, which I get. Sometimes it's that. But most of the time, it's an easy fix with more water and more electrolytes and maybe the timing of your food. So this is a time where I would encourage, a 5-10 minute phone call with me or catch one of the teachers afterwards, ask some questions after class, and um, we can always help you with our tips that work, and just to let you know that, it's not, if something isn't right about something you're feeling, then you would want to know that, and we may be able to tell you that. But most of the time, we can give you advice on what you can do if something like that is happening. Yeah. What do I need to get started? Well, all you need is a willingness just to show up, do something for yourself. You need a mat. You need a large shower size towel to go on top of your mat to catch your sweat. I would recommend the least amount of clothes that you're comfortable in, again, so that the sweat is sitting on your skin, and a water bottle. And that's really all you need. And just sometimes the hardest part is getting to the yoga studio. Once you do, you're so glad. And it's a running joke that the worst class you had is the one you didn't go to. So if that says anything, Well, I believe this is all I have for you guys now. And I just want to say thank you once again. I hope that this shed some light on some questions, some lingering questions you've had about getting started. And feel free to email me. My email is Janelle@BikramYogaFremontStreet.com. You can email Bruno at BikramYogaFremontStreet.com. And I look forward to practicing with you all. Have a really wonderful evening. Thank you.